mom at the store. Little Sue was 8 years old, and my mom would tell me, don't stare. Instead of not staring, I would loudly say, why? And when my mom would tell me, I'll tell you later, she would be walking with the cart, and I would again say, why? And then she would tell me, 1 minute, Sue. And I would say again, even louder, but Mom, why? And then, just with her mom look, I guarantee you, I knew why. I knew why in that very second. You see, I know the answer to that why after 13 years, but I still don't know many answers to my whys currently. My why has become way less simple and way more complex. And it's not just about me personally, it's about things in the future and just things that are happening in the world. One thing that has really stuck out to me is my grandpa. The last words my grandpa ever told me was, no matter what age you are, honey, there will always be a why. But we were never called to solve it all. The next day, he was hit by a drunk driver. Why? Our purpose in life is to effectively analyze the why in our life. And in order to do this, we must develop a curious mind and look at 3 different parts. Curiosity allows us to develop a critical path to understanding, and curiosity allows us to be aware of others in our environment, and last but not least, curiosity allows us to develop our character. So let's begin by looking at how curiosity allows us to develop a critical path to understanding. First off, learning theory is something that's really important. We all have an education, but one thing is for sure, according to Holmes et 2016, we know for a fact that we do not need to worry if a child sticks their pinky in a light socket, they'll know again not to do it ever again, because they will learn right away. Following this study, there was another study conducted about classical conditioning. Classical conditioning, according to Holmes et 2016, states that there needs to be an environmental stimulus and another stimulus in order to have a learning experience. And then we also have operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is very important. We know that if we do something, our actions will lead to a consequence. And according to Gills S 2020, this study conducted shows that there's this 3-step procedure to this. The first is what to do, when to do, and why to do. Sounds kind of silly right now, but I guarantee you that sometimes we take action and we don't really filter those thoughts in our head. Last but not least, we have observational learning. Observational learning is something that's really important because it's not just seeing a child getting spanked, you know, oh wait, I can't do that. Of course we know that, that's something we observe. But as a child, we also are really aware of not doing other things based on other people's experiences. And now, I mean, with further technology in our generation today, we could even have observational learning through TikTok, Facebook, our TVs, you name it. Technology is everywhere. And it also leads to a lot of rabbit holes. To be honest, if there's a really cute guy that I'm like, wow, I want to get to know him better, I'll click on his profile on Instagram, and then from there I'll go into a rabbit hole, seeing his tags, and then finding his mom's Facebook posts of his great aunt. Again, we lead to rabbit holes because our curiosity piques us. This is something that is normal, that is natural. And now with further technological development, curiosity is not just something that we face by observing in class when we're both studying. It's not just that anymore. Now we have our laptops, and yeah, you have your Apple Watch with you right now. Again, we're tied into technology, but that also allows us to develop a critical path to understanding. My second point is how curiosity allows us to develop our awareness of others and our environment. Curiosity allows us to not just be aware of others, but we become more sensitive to other people's feelings. For instance, I'm not gonna tell someone right off the bat, I don't like the way you look. Of course not. But you can say with a really nice attitude, hey, you look great today, but I think if you would change the way you do that, or hey, can I let you borrow one of my jackets? That could really help someone and making them feel more comfortable. You're partnering with them in order to see them grow. That's what kind of a friend is all about. Everyone is curious about something. Everyone has their opinion based on their curiosity. But being curious allows us to become more sensitive and more docile. And to be honest with you, it also helps us internally. We know that we're helping someone based on our curiosity. But in addition to that, a Forbes magazine titled Curiosity and Leadership, every leader needs to be curious. There is no one on this planet that does not even wonder once why they ask the question, why? But something that's also very important is that we become aware of our environment. Based on how we are aware of others and others around us, based on our environment, we become very what-if types of people. Instead of being curious like a child, we start thinking, what if this happens? What if that happens? And in my case, every time I get in my car, I always say, what if I die today? Because based on my grandpa's experience, I'm traumatized. And that's something that I'm gonna have to work through. But you might be thinking, what if after college? What if this happens? What if this doesn't work out? What if my boyfriend breaks up with me? You have all these questions in your mind, but the what if needs to be something that can be turned into a curiosity moment instead of a doubt of anxiety and depression. According to an article in Forbes magazine titled Anxiety Through Gen Z Generations, we can see that this was published in 2020, the prime time of COVID-19. But we can also see how we become so anxious and unable to manage a curiosity. And this also leads us to how can curiosity allow us to develop our character? Our third point is very important. Curiosity allows us to become better stewards, especially with God's word. And we can see through all our past generations how everyone has been curious. But I specifically want to dive in to the story of Moses. Exodus 3:3 says, I will go see the burning bush. I want to be aware why it is not consumed. 3 words, I want, aware. He took the action. We take actions. Our curiosity can take us into a vice or a virtue. And I can guarantee you, I am personal witness of how someone can do something without really analyzing and creating a horrible disaster, hurting lives and creating a ripple effect of trauma. But I can guarantee you now that after we're analyzing this, we can also see how even there's an article titled in New York Times 2020, titling Students versus Fear. This article in itself just talks about how a lot of students, they finish their education, they run through it, but yet they're scared because they sit home and they're like, now what? Should I get my master's? Should I get my doctorate? And again, we believe that if we don't do anything and take a moment of silence to listen to our questions, we become very unaware of what's happening. Last but not least, I just want to mention how the owner and the CEO of the Toyota company has a theory of the 5 whys. His 5 whys are very interesting. It's kind of simple. You have a question, and then you will say why 5 times, and it'll get to the root of the problem. So let's kind of navigate this through the man that hit my grandpa. He was drunk. Why? Because he wanted to hang out with his friends. Why? Because he wanted to go home. Why? Because he had a pregnant wife waiting for him. Why? Because he was going to be yelled at. Why? Because he was selfish. That's the root to the why. But in order for us to develop our character, we should ask ourselves more why daily. And it helps us. According to greatleaders.org, this is something that every single type of leader will have to have a deep conversation within themselves. And what's also important is realizing that our why is not just something based on ourselves, but like we mentioned, an environmental awareness as well. Why do we lock our doors? Why do we tie our shoes? Why are we nice to people? Why do we smile when it's awkward? Why do we laugh when people fall? All of these questions are things that are normal. But if we go to the root of the problem, the way we say why can change our perspective. Why do we laugh when people fall? Well, because I would want to laugh if someone saw me fall. Again, you kind of twist the narrative. But what's something that can change our whole persona is realizing that the way we have our character molded can become a vice or a virtue. Based on our actions, the way we talk to people, the way we see people, our empathy can grow. Did you know that there's an article that mentions how socialization can allow us to have a better curiosity form? Curiosity is not just something that we just do by asking questions, but even when we socialize with people, we can become friends, even lifelong friends, not just colleagues, with people that aren't like us. A lot of politicians are very curious, but you also have the capability of being like that too. You can be friends with people that aren't like you. Getting comfortable being uncomfortable is the root to what curiosity is. Because if you aren't curious of other people inside your circle, you won't ever be curious of what's around you. And you won't ever fulfill the truth that God has promised us, to be able to love one another as He has loved us. So I implore you, the next time you get in your car, or you're gonna go to a party, or you're gonna text and drive, or you're gonna do anything along those lines, just please be aware that your actions have a limit. And even if you think you have control of it, your curiosity can peak. And by peak, you go down. Because you will have a lot of people that will suffer a ripple effect based on your